Hi, John.
Grants.
How are you?
What's going on, John C. McGinley?
Good to see you guys again.
Good to see you.
Outstanding.
Yeah, how are you?
Never better.
Well, welcome. We were just talking about bathroom habits of Rich Voss over here. He's he's disgusting. He's disgusting.
You know what they are? They try to build themselves up by tearing people down, but I don't do that. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what we do.
Oh.
Nothing wrong with that. That's what everyone does. That's what every good person does.
Yeah.
That's what brothers do with each other.
That's
it is,
what
right?
It is.
Yeah, my brother Jerry, Mark, and I. That's the standard operating procedure was either knock Jerry down or knock Mark down to elevate yourself.
Who's the
Right.
oldest?
I am.
Okay, so you were kind of the one that would you bully them at all or no?
When they were very little, because they became so. Can you swear on this?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They became so goddamn big that you had to get your cuts in early because they're both the size of a Kenmore refrigerator now, and so no, everything was reconciled prior to being 10.
Oh, okay.
You had to get your licks in then.
Remember when you were small? Like I used to hold. You know how people used to hold their brother down and they would spit and suck it up, and
Sure.
I would hold him down and put my penis in his mouth.
What? That's disgusting.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that. That's
Yeah, you definitely shouldn't do that.
that's molestation. That's not. That's not.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that.
I was only
That's not
2 years older.
good-natured.
I was only 2 years older.
You shouldn't do that. You
No,
shouldn't.
yeah, no, that we
at all.
can't advocate for at all.
No,
but-
he just wanted his brother to hold him down too, and he wouldn't do it. He was hoping it would.
No, we used to take my brother Mark, and when we moved out of the city and out towards Milburn, New Jersey, we would take Mark. And when trash cans used to be made out of metal, now they're all made out of plastic and
Sure.
stuff, or tin, whatever they're made of. We'd stick Mark in a garbage can, put the top on, and roll him down the driveway.
Must have been a great
And just
sound.
punching the whole thing the whole time, just making that horrible clanking sound those old metal cans used to make.
Yeah. Now, did he at any point in his life come back and be like, that was really, really awful
No,
at the time?
we laugh about it now. But,
Yeah, you have to.
I mean, it was just a jackass thing to do.
Of course.
What do they do now, though? Your brothers?
They all work down in finance.
Oh, they do.
Yep.
So when you did Wall Street, did they have any connection to helping you out with that, or not at all?
No, because
Okay.
but I worked on the floor. I worked for Henderson Brothers as a summer job for a couple summers. So and my father worked at Kidder Peabody and for 45 or 50 years. So none of that stuff was far removed.
So when you see guys in the soccer, they don't really do it anymore. I think it's all computerized. But when they would be waving tickets and screaming,
Yeah.
do you understand what's happening there?
100%.
I have no idea how anything gets accomplished.
Or how anybody
How do
keeps
you
track
know,
of anything.
How do you know what's getting in?
Yeah.
They're just yelling.
What would you be yelling? Like the guy with the tickets yelling, and like, what are you looking for? The guy who's standing there writing stuff down.
It's called making a market, and so you're just buying and selling, whatever the issue was. It'd be no different if we were making a market in this thing of water, and the bid was for 25, and the ask was for 50. We have to meet somewhere between 25 and 50.
So how do you keep track of who has agreed to what?
No idea.
Really?
You just-
I think that's all on your computer now.
Yeah, but when there was 10 people yelling, is there one person catching it or two?
There had to been because it functioned in an orderly. It's called an orderly market. There was an orderly market for way before we were born.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think somebody had it figured out.
Yeah, because I always watched that and I would get stressed out. But the stressful part was like, what if a guy didn't catch that thing that guy just said? Like then that stock trade doesn't
I don't think that
happen,
ever
and-
happened. I think guys caught with
Everything.
It was an orderly market.
Yeah.
And you
It
would
is
write
an
stuff
orderly
down,
market.
and I guess you have to have a ticket or something. They would hand off a paper. It was
Yeah.
always
Crazy.
It's so confusing and stressful to watch. You know, stock market guys have a fucking they burn out young, right? They have a
Yes.
really young burnout.
Yes.
But that's why they make their money young.
Yeah.
Like that. I think that's the idea, right? That you make your money in the
then
first
you,
10
and
years.
then you move up to either a sales position
Right.
or a management position. But being down in the pit, like in Chicago at the Mercantile, they call it the pit. And I don't know how long you're there.
Yeah.
I think you're there for a little while, and then you go on to maybe you climb the ladder, whatever that looks like.
Sure.
What was it like to be on the set of that film? That's such a great movie.
Wall Street?
Yeah.
It was really exciting because we were down the Woolworth building, which was at one point in Lower Manhattan the tallest building.
Isn't that an apartment building now? Aren't they? I think they're actually making that
idea.
into apartments. Oh.
But it's a stunningly beautiful building.
Yeah.
It's cut from the same cloth as what's the Art Deco building in Midtown? The Chrysler building.
Yeah.
It's cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
And so we were shooting in the Woolworth building during the day, and I was doing talk radio up at the Public at the Shakespeare Festival on Lafayette Street at night. And so it was kind of the actor's dream to have be doing a studio film during the day, and then being a hit play. And talk radio was a hit by then with Eric Bogosian, and it was the original. We created the play, and so it was a massive hit down there. It was in the theater at the Public, only had about 275 seats, so it was the hottest ticket in town. And so it was great. And
wait, you were doing the play talk radio?
Yes.
And you were the star? You were the Bogosian character?
No, Eric was always Eric, and I was his engineer.
Okay.
I was sending calls in.
You were in we call it the Tef Box now. You were the Travis dog.
Yes.
I was.
You
I was
created the Travis dog role.
Yes.
Yes.
And, so
you were doing Wall Street during the day.
Correct. So it was kind of a New York actor's dream.
Yeah.
And so how was that set? It was Nirvana. It was great. Charlie and I had already spent 2 weeks at not Bear Stearns. Somebody else had let us work on their floor for 2 weeks. And so talk radio was already up and running. It was a hit. And so during the day, my day job was Wall Street. So that was as good as it gets in Manhattan.
As an actor, and obviously an accomplished actor, do you still have to go up for auditions, or do you get offered a part?
I get offered. Otherwise, I don't really want to do it.
You won't audition, right?
If it was for Marty Scorsese or somebody really special, then sure, I'd go do his carpet. But no, that ship sailed. It's, if you want to get together, let's get together. If not, if you want to play games, then definitely get someone else.
That's
I don't
what
care.
I said. I've never done a movie, but I say the same thing.
But if you're doing the thing to me is it sounds like it's a dream, but it's also like, oh shit, you got a great gig, you're doing a play at night, and now you got to get up in the morning and go work on Wall Street for a couple of weeks. That's got to be also. I mean,
it was okay because Charlie and Oliver and I had already spent a year and a half earlier in the Philippines doing Platoon, so there was already pre-existing connective tissue. And so when Oliver, the phone rang, and Platoon had been a great success, and he said, you want to do the next film with me, read it. And my family had been in finance for a couple of generations, and so it spoke to me immediately. And it was a great showy role to play Charlie's best friend, and that was a great gig. And the dates worked out, and the Shakespeare Festival accommodated me getting there late a couple of times. Look, when you're doing a play, you have to show up it's called Equity Half Hour. Equity is the union, the actors' union for plays. And you have to show up a half hour early. And I like to show up a half hour so you can do a vocal warm-up and do whatever things you have to do before you get in front of people. And I was late a couple of times, and they were pretty great about letting me go on.
How late? Oh, you weren't after the play started, but you were within that half hour.
Yeah,
late.
You're supposed to be at the theater at half hour. And the rule is if you miss half hour, you're not going on.
Your understudy goes on.
Absolutely. It's just the way it goes. And I missed half hour a bunch of times, and they still let me go on, and so it was pretty great.
But did the understudy hate you?
No, because I understudied John Turturro and Danny and the Deep Blue Sea for about a year and a half before. And Danny and the Deep Blue Sea was a play that John Shanley wrote, and John Shanley would go on to win for Moonstruck. And so we were down at Circle in the Square on Bleecker, and John's just a bull. He wouldn't go down until he finally went to do Desperately Seeking Susan, a film that Madonna was in at the time, and it was a big deal, and all the New York actors wanted to be in it. And so I got to go on for John for the weekend, and I've been waiting for a year and a half to do it. And so, no, I understand the life of an understudy. I understudied John for a year and a half. And so I had no compunction about my understudy doing whatever it was he was going to do.
And so your understudy knew, right? Like, even though you were late, you had this other thing going on. So he's not sitting there getting warmed up like, oh, this is going to be my spot, and then you show up 5 minutes
No, but I'm
before.
sure the stage manager told him, you may be going on tonight. And in the middle of the talk radio is only a one act. It's about 70 minutes. It's a hurricane, Eric on stage. But about 15 minutes in, I get to turn to the audience and do this great monologue about how Eric and I's characters met. And it's about the 7-minute monologue. And it's a New York actor's dream. A pin spot hits you. You walk. The closest place you can walk to an audience on a proscenium stage, a thrust stage, the light cue is called down in one. So you get to go down in one, a pin spot hits you.
Pin spot's just your head?
Yes. And you tell the story about what happened with you and Eric. I mean, it's an actor's dream. And I co-wrote the monologue with Eric during rehearsal. And I got there, and it was a particularly horrible day on the set of Wall Street. And I got up there, and I walked down in one, and the pin spot hit me, and I got about a minute into the story, and there was nothing there. I forgot the next line.
You forgot it?
It wasn't there. It was gone. I was blank. In theater, it's called going up. And I went up. And I was there, and I'm sure it was fascinating for the audience to see someone dying in front of them.
Did they know what was happening?
I don't know. I'm sure it was compelling to see the human condition in panic, in complete chaos. And I just stood there for, I don't know if it was 15 seconds, it was a half a minute. And I sat down.
You just stopped it?
Yes.
Because there was nothing there.
There was nothing there.
You couldn't even grab a little line later in the story. You just had.
I went blank.
And do people get pissed when that happens, or is it sort of like this happens to actors on stage?
But you can't ad lib your way out of it, or
I
towards
went
the scene?
blank. It's the only time I've done hundreds of plays. It's the only time I've ever gone up, and it was in the worst. If I could go up, if you and I were doing a scene, and you could circle a line back and remind me what we're doing. This was a pin spot, a 7-minute monologue. There was nowhere to go.
Right.
And
Did that?
I surrendered.
Did that fuck with you the next time you went on? The next night? Did it?
I didn't go on the next night because I was so late that night, the night I went up. I think I got there 10 of. And like I said, you're supposed to be there for a half hour, which is 7:30.
Yeah.
And I got there 10 of. And then I think the next night, Oliver didn't wrap me till, I don't know, 7 minutes before. And the Teamster, we raced up Lafayette Street. And I got there, and people were at places. And the stage manager was just like, you can't. And he was right. And so I didn't make any big deal out of it.
So the understudy did it.
But that's,
and he was fine.
And that's part of it, though, right? Like the fact that, like, in that half hour, you actually, in your head, get into this play.
100%.
And no matter how many times you've done it, that's what the risk is, right? If you're not there, kind of mentally preparing, even though you've done this 100 times, it just leaves.
Yes, you're in this very claustrophobic 275-seat, tiny, very off-Broadway house. And the stakes are high because it's the hottest ticket in town. Eric would win an Obie for it. And the stakes are high. And that pin spot hits you. You come down and you tell this great story. And you forgot the story.
Now, how do you continue on after that? I know that you don't have any
I knew it was an aberrant. I knew it was a one. We had a horrible day on the set, and I wasn't present.
Why a horrible day on the set?
Well, I meant that night, though.
Oliver was particularly mad that day, and everything was going wrong. Lights were breaking. Things were going wrong on movie sets, and we didn't get the day. In other words, if we had 4 pages we were supposed to shoot today, we didn't get it. And everybody was mad at everybody, and I carried that up to the Shakespeare Festival with me. And that talk radio has nothing to do with that. Those are two different things.
But how do you get back into the play that night? Like when you're just going back to doing your lines, do you have to sit there and
panic kicks in, and you just start to do what you've rehearsed, and
it just goes into that
autopilot a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really weird because on stage I've blanked before on stage too, just doing stand up, but there's always a way out of it because again you're not in a monologue. But sometimes you forget what connects you from one word to the next. It's not the first word of the sentence; it's the final word of the last sentence.
Correct.
And that's what you don't like. We remember bullet points, but bullet points are always the first word of a sentence. It's never the last word. So you're like, oh my god, it's hard. It's even hard doing stand up to get back to it. In that situation, it would be impossible.
Yeah.
It's stand up.
I haven't thought about that story in 15 years.
Man.
Yeah, it's scary.
Comes back like that.
Yeah,
that panic, right?
Absolutely. Because I just did a year or two ago a revival with Al Pacino and Bobby Cannavale. We did Glengarry Glen Ross.
Right.
Who did you play in that?
The stir that straws the drink. In the movie, it's the Ed Harris role. And I'm the one who makes the robbery happen. I can't think of I'm blanking on the character right now. But
it's I know it's not Shelley, it's not Ricky Romo, it's
I'll think of it in a second.
Not
As
Alan,
we're talking, I'll think of it. But
Dave. Was it Dave?
Yes.
Fucking Bobby. I saw him in
He's
Man Without a the Motherfucker Without a Hat
with Chris Rock, Motherfucker with a Hat. Yeah.
But he was so fucking good in Boardwalk Empire.
He won an Emmy for it. Right?
Unbelievable. You hated him so much.
What an actor. He's the best.
He's great.
Do you know that? But here's the story about Bobby. Got me a ticket to see that because I saw the version with Alan Alda.
I heard that was really good.
It was. Yeah, it was. Liev Schreiber played Ricky Romo, and Alan Alda played Shelley, which was so weird to see anybody but Jack Lemmon playing. I hadn't seen.
I bet he was good as Shelley.
He was very good. Yeah. But I wanted to see Pacino. I've never seen Pacino live, and Bobby said, "Yeah, okay." And he got me a ticket. And So I'm going with my buddy that night, and it's we're getting ready. It's like 6 o'clock, and I'm like, the play's going to start, and I think I realized that the play was over. I had overslept. It was a daytime matinee. A Sunday matinee, and it was the
1
last
o'clock.
showing. It was the last day of the play, and I thought it was a nighttime play, so I missed. I would have seen your play, but I'm an ass.
You are an ass.
That's one of still my greatest regrets. I didn't get to go see that. I didn't even know you were in it. I knew Bobby was in it.
So good.
And
we were bulletproof.
Who else was in that besides
David Harbour, Richard Schiff, Jeremy Shamus, Al, Bobby, and me. It was bulletproof.
So when you go onto a play and you're rehearsing and nobody knows each other yet, nobody knows anybody's energy or where you're going to move, how long does it take to kind of start getting things, especially when a guy like Pacino is there, who no matter how long you're around, he's still Pacino.
But we had already done Any Given Sunday down in Miami
you already
together,
knew
the
him.
football movie, and I think Al's largely why they asked me to do it. I know that's why. And so people lay their burden down pretty quick out of necessity.
What's that mean?
You know how everybody brings in whoever they want to be into a room?
Yeah.
And but in the rehearsal process, since we're all playing somebody else, I think people's dukes come down pretty quick, so that we can do this thing together and we can save each other's lives on stage when something goes wrong, like someone goes up, and we can save each other's life at the Schoenfeld in front of 1,100 people, 1,200 people, who had paid to come see Al. It was the hottest ticket in town, seeing Al in Glengarry. We're going to have to save each other, whatever that means. Something's going to go wrong. And so I think people's dukes come down really quick in the rehearsal. Hopefully, in the rehearsal process, we all just go like, okay, how are we going to do this?
Have you pulled have you pulled other people up when you see that you could see them blanking?
Yes.
And you just kind of bring it around and you save
just
them?
circle lines. Yes.
You know,
No
my
big
favorite.
deal.
Yeah, you just do it. It's just something you do.
Yes. Because we're out here. We're doing this. There's 1,200 people.
Yeah.
They all paid $500 a ticket, or whatever the insane number is. I don't even know. But I'm going to save you. I will save you. I guarantee you, I'll save you.
That's great.
Nothing's going to go wrong when I'm around you on stage. I'm going to save you. Now we can go. Someone call action. We got it. We're like this.
And you have that same feeling from that other person.
100%.
What do you do if you don't have that? There's got to be times though where you work with somebody,
right? You don't trust them.
You don't trust them, or they're just not not on your level.
I don't know. I don't feel that way. I haven't felt that way.
So you've had a good string of luck with the guys you've worked with.
Yeah, or I insist on it. I impose my will on you, and make you, condition you to know that at some point you're going to have to help me, and you will. Otherwise, I'll punch you in the esophagus.
You know what my favorite line from Any Given Sunday is?
No, we don't. Tell us.
Your smack is so fresh.
Oh yeah, I say that to Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
Who do I say that to?
I think Jamie Foxx, when you're the
a magician,
sports TV host, and you're just like completely sucking his ass because he's successful where you weren't before. And Jamie
I got to hang out with Jim Rome. Jim Rome let me hang out with him for about a couple of weeks. And then I wanted that guy to be a combination of Lenny Bruce, and so I went to what was then the Museum of Broadcast. Now you could just get it on your computer, but I went to see a bunch of different Lenny Bruce stuff at the Museum of Broadcast, and then I hung out with Jim, and I kind of found this amalgamation of Lenny Bruce and Jim Rome, who was all the rage at the time. And that's who I brought down to Miami, and Oliver was just like, "Yeah, McGinley, do that. That'll be good. Don't fuck my film, but do that." And I'm like, "Okay, this is the guy I brought."
Is he a pretty intense guy? I've interviewed him once. So I don't know him at all, but he seems like a pretty intense guy to work for.
Yes, and he knows. Look, when you're on an Oliver film, it's tantamount to being with a thoroughbred at Kentucky, the Kentucky Derby, where they wear those blinders creatively. Oliver's vision has blinders on, and if you can fit inside that vision, it's nirvana. If you want to function outside, that's when actors have the nightmare stories, because it's Oliver's. We're doing Oliver's film. This is not Kumbaya. Let's all hold hands around the campfire. This is Oliver's film. He wrote it. He probably worked on it for 10 years. We're going to fit inside this narrow creative vision that's his, because it's his movie. And yes, we're collaborating, but stay inside his creative vision. If you stay in there, it's heaven. If you want to function outside of it, you'll get run over.
Will he try to bring you back in gently at first, or is he a guy who just is very cut and dry at what he wants?
Yeah, well, there was no time. As you probably know, on movie sets, there's no time. Everything, we have to go now. We have to get this. And so, no, Oliver can direct with a sledgehammer at times.
Do you get frustrated when people can't or don't work well in those circumstances? You know, when that sort of rush and pressure's on and this and that, and they're kind of like, you know, they like things to be a little bit nicer, a little bit softer. Does that become very, very difficult for you?
Yes, it drives me insane.
It does.
Yeah. So what actors have, when we were doing Scrubs, we did Scrubs for about 9 years, and the small version of a script, which is about the dimensions of a napkin from a restaurant, are called sides.
Sure.
So actors bring their sides on the set until the last minute. They're looking at them, and then they put them down and they do the scene. And so a lot of times, because actors are struggling with lines, right up until the last second, they got them right up by their face. And so I got so fed up with actors not knowing their lines on Scrubs. I used to tell them, you know what? When we come around to your shot, keep the sides right in your face, because we're not going to use yours. We're just going to cut to me listening. It'll be infinitely more interesting than you struggling for your goddamn lines. And they'd be like, what? I'm like, yeah, you don't need to. Just keep the sides in the frame. It'll be great. Just keep them right here. And because we're not going to use your coverage. We're going to cut to me going like, because that's more interesting than listening to you struggle for your goddamn lines. And it's such a subversive thing to do. But I got so fed up with people struggling for. It's not that hard to remember your goddamn lines.
So do you have that's called a reverse.
Do you have that moment where where they're looking at you trying to figure out, oh, is he joking? Or
yes,
and then they look at you and realize you're not joking?
Yes, it's just
and they're terrified.
Like taking candy from a
baby.
You
talking? You're not talking about. You're talking about people that are coming on as guest spots, right? You're not.
I'm not talking
about
the ensemble.
Yeah,
no,
the guest spots.
The ensemble was.
I worked on a movie all summer doing punch up on a movie all summer, and some of the takes you're going, holy fuck! They're doing all these takes, you know, this angle, and the money that they're this is just two actors talking.
Yeah. Understandable.
And I see, like, oh man, this guy knows they do a lot of takes on a movie.
And
he must really be on the inside.
Woody Allen won't. Woody Allen will do what? 3 takes, 2 or 3 takes.
Is that who you worked with, Woody Allen?
No, I wish.
Oh, okay, so you just read that somewhere.
Absolutely, you have the same lifestyle.
Oh, okay.
I work with Adam, who's the nicest guy on the planet.
Oh.
The nicest, and ad-libbing. And
Sandler.
I
thought you didn't know.
I Adam West.
I don't get a list. I work with Adam. Very
Yeah.
nice guy. But you would see sometimes actors didn't have the fucking lines, and they're throwing them the lines, and you know. And hey, as a punch-up guy, who am I to say anything? You know what I mean?
Yes, you wish you felt that way now.
Yeah.
But I feel what he's saying.
Right.
I get it.
But you're not talking about somebody like the first time that you're talking about after 3 or 4 takes where they're just not getting what they're supposed to be doing and they're screwing everything up.
Yes.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Did you read the script? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't brain surgery.
That's got to be the worst feeling too when you have such a great. Because there's nothing they can say. Like, you're right.
Right.
And they have to know you're right.
Because if anybody, what are they going to say? Like, oh, McGinley doesn't know what he's talking about. And you're like, if anybody knows what they're talking about, it's
yes,
probably
I do. Yeah.
probably
no,
him. Yeah, it's probably the guy.
I definitely do.
Yeah, check his resume.
Hey, when you were on the set of Wall Street, did you get to interact with Martin Sheen at all?
No.
You didn't, right?
He's my neighbor now, but no, he was he had those hospital interiors. I was just in that one interior, just in that trading floor. We never.
That's right.
Marvin, that character, never left the trading floor.
Was that based on anybody?
It was based on Oliver's experience with his father was a financier, and so I think it was Oliver's. Stanley Weiser wrote the script, and then Oliver tweaked it, and I think he brought a lot of his sensibilities growing up as the son of a financier on the Upper East Side. So it was a work of fiction.
But then it was loosely based on like an Ivan Boesky type character, Gordon Gekko.
Yes.
Do you when you're getting when you have a guy like Oliver who obviously likes you and wants you as his guy in a lot of the character roles in his movies, do you ever after 2, 3, 4 movies stop him and be like, Oliver, like, do you have anything more like a bigger role? Do you have a starring thing, or do you go like, nope, this is my spot, this is what I'm good at, and in this.
I tend to stay in my lane.
Yeah.
Especially with somebody like Oliver, who's, if somebody puts you in 6 movies, I don't know if there's a whole lot of complaining in there.
Right.
And so, no, from Platoon to Any Given Sunday, that's a good run. And I haven't seen Oliver in years, but when I do and we get back in the cockpit, it'll be like, I'm sure it'll be just like falling out of bed.
Sure.
The same thing. You just pick right up where you left off.
I think so. That's been my experience going from each film to the next. Now, we did talk radio for 1.5 years as the play before Oliver came in and decided to do the movie. So it was one of those rare occasions. Usually when someone does the play, the conventional wisdom is it's called star fucking. We're going to star fuck somebody for your role. We're going to get a bigger name than McGinley to play. The character's name was Stu, to play the guy in the box, and we'll star fuck somebody. And the fact that I got to create that character and then do the movie is against all odds. You just don't. You get replaced by whoever the character actor is of the day who's going to slum down a little bit. John Travolta's going to play Stu. And so I got to do that, and that felt really good.
We were just watching you yesterday. We were talking because I mean, you and Tom Berenger in Platoon. Like, I mean, that character of Sergeant Barnes was just—it's one of the greatest movie characters ever. And you got to do most of your scenes with him.
Yeah, and before I left, I decided that the one thing, the character I was playing is a guy named Sergeant O'Neill, and the one thing I was going to do was for that character arc was whatever it took to get the fuck out of here for the character. Right. And the way to get out of here was through Sergeant Barnes. There's no way out except for through. So John McGinley, I became best friends with Tom, and then the trickle down from that. Look, every time you get in front of a lens, you're lying, and so if you can reduce the scope of the lie, the length of the lie. In front of the lens, you have a chance of telling the story, and maybe this lens doesn't suffer you as the lie is so profound. And so if I can become best friends with Tom Berenger, and then that bleeds into the way Sergeant O'Neill and Sergeant Barnes treat and regard each other, we're reducing the space of the lie, and it works. And so that's what I did. I became best friends with Tom. He happens to be the greatest guy on the planet. And then the lens picked that up. And the only way out for O'Neill was through Barnes. And then when Barnes dies and O'Neill gets reassigned the platoon, there's that great shot at the end where he's just fucked. He did everything he could to get out of here. And
he couldn't. Well, Barnes wouldn't let you out.
Correct.
That was a really harsh scene. Just you begging this guy who the whole film you've been good to.
Begging. Yeah. Well, there's this great scene.
Whimpering.
Anything, whatever it took. Al's got that great line in Any Given Sunday, whatever it takes. And throughout the whole film, one gesture I thought to be the supplicant of the king would be to always be lighting a cigarette, just at all times. And there's that one great scene in the beginning where Willem's in the scene and Mark Moses, the lieutenant, and we're sitting around and we're going to get assigned the night operation, the night op. And Tom takes a cigarette out, and I could see him in my periphery, and I wanted to do a Magic Johnson, Pete Maravich no-look light. And I did. But the Zippo didn't ignite, and so I felt the whole scene stop, and everyone's looking at me. And then I look over at Tom, and I lit it for him. That's the one Oliver put in the film.
That was the one he kept.
It's a total outtake, but it's again, the lie got reduced. I was horrified that the one thing I was going to fucking do was always be lighting this guy's cigarette. And I thought it'd be a little sexy about it and do a no-look. And, like a Magic Johnson no-look.
Yeah.
And so I did a no-look light, and I felt Willem looking at me, Mark Moses, and I'm like, I didn't have a line, so I was just wondering what... Ah, fuck. Oh, God damn it.
The cool thing did not work out at all.
So not cool.
Yeah, not even a little.
And if you watch that scene again, you'll see what I mean.